Porter, Head of Arts for the British Council in South Africa. We had a chat to earlier and a team of experts and officials from both countries in leading and implementing the Seasons.Mr Tembe joins me from our Durban studios to tell us more about the role. Bongani, good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sam, and to your listeners.
I can only imagine that the role of Commissioner General is very similar to the one that you played in France.
Yes, it's along the same lines, but of course now we are collaborating with the United Kingdom. As you probably know, South Africa and the United Kingdom share strong bilateral links dating back centuries.
Let's quickly reflect on what came out of the SA France season. I know we spoke about it, but what were the lessons learned from that relationship that you can use for this one?
There were many lessons learned, and also it strengthened many arguments and our perspectives on many issues. One of them is the power of the arts to help brand our country positively around the world. I remember 3 years ago when I was traveling to France to plan the seasons, the conversation was around crime, HIV, AIDS, and all of that. But I saw that later change, and people were talking about now the creative energy of South Africa. More than 1,000 artists traveled in more than 100 cities in France, and that kind of helps to change the narrative, to show the other side of South Africa. So that was a very important lessons learned, and we will increase on that in the UK South Africa seasons.
Earlier, I had a chat to Tom Porter, who I mentioned in the intros, the head of arts. He was joined by Mary Corrigal, who's the Sunday Independent editor. And there were a couple of issues that came up. One of the things that Mary mentioned was, how do we measure the success of the France SA season? And the other thing that came up was that there was an issue around the kind of artists that was used in France, many of them being French and not South African.
No, as I said early on, in 2012 you had the French season in South Africa, and of course the majority of those artists were French.
But her relation was, her relation was to the season in France.
Yes. In 2013, we then had the South African season in France, so we took more than 1,000 South African artists. We never took French artists to France, but South African artists.
She was talking about the quality of artists. She was saying that a lot of the artists that was being used in France had already had an international platform. She was saying that what the season should be trying to do is exposing new upcoming artists to the overseas market.
Yes, the facts really are that out of the 1,000 South African artists that we took to France, less than 100 are really, really famous. Of course, we had people like Hugh Masekela, Lady Smith, Black Mambas, and others, but the majority, hundreds of them, were not well-known artists. For instance, we took a group of rural women from KZN who dances isikeke, a traditional dance, about 30 of them to Paris. We took other Skatamia groups, other than the Lady Smith Black Mambazo, to Paris. So hundreds and hundreds of artists who are not known travel to France. Of course, it is the very famous artists that get more media attention. But the positive thing is that the other not so known artists are now breaking into the market and are now being invited elsewhere in Europe, which is the multiplier effect of the seasons.
Bongani, we've run out of time, but thank you very much for joining me. I'm sure we'll pick up this conversation as we move closer and closer to the launch of that season. But that was the Commissioner General of the SA UK season 2014 to 2015, Bongani Tembe, speaking to us about his role and the success of the project, of course reflecting on the France SA season that happened in 2012 to 2013.